Welcome to another episode of Amiga Retro. And I could say Adventures, but I dropped that name, at least for now, from my channel. Thought Amiga Retro sounded a bit better, or at least shorter than the Adventures, because you always have an adventure with Amiga and this fine Commodore 64 here. This is the C64 Reloaded Mark II. This is actually part 2 of the video. And the board, of course, is by the Mark II Reloaded board is by individual computers. And this case, I believe, is made by another company, Pixel something or other. I'm not sure. I always want to say Pixel Works, but that's not the name of it. I'll put the name in later in this video. Right now I'm just going to show you, before we get to the terminal program, and how to configure the board, because it has a built-in FPGA to control all of its functions and customize a bunch of stuff. We need to first connect it to your computer, or at least my computer over there, but you can use your computer if you want. So the first thing we can do, and I'm going to try to hold this in my hand without making everyone too dizzy, on the back of the computer, right here, you'll notice by right there where my finger is, so by the cassette port, there's a USB mini, not micro mini, the older, not like the first original USB type connection for mobile devices and whatnot, is right there. So you would take a cord, here we go, this is the cord right here, and of course it has the USB-A on the other end. Like I said, it's just a regular cable, and so I'm going to plug that into this and then plug it into the computer. And once I have that done, I will be back with you on the desktop, and then I'll show you the configuration. And you can use any terminal program, it's RS-232 compliant, to basically remote into this and configure the firmware to the basically you can customize the behavior of this unit. So I will be, it'll take me a couple minutes to set that up, and I'll be right back. This will be the configuration part. I'm just going to briefly go over the features it has. I already have a terminal program installed. You can use pretty much any terminal program for modem communications, and in my case I am using Terraterm, which is actually, if you go to the Indivision wiki page, they mention this one specifically by name. That's why I'm using it, but it's really no different than any other terminal program you may come across. And I'm going to go to serial port COM5, so it's already there. Good, so it should work. 19.2 is the speed I believe it wants. New open. So that is the menu of the C64 Reloaded Mark II. So you can adjust your audio options, burst mode options. That's if you have like a 1571, 1581 disk drives, the ones that accepts like I think the 5 1/4 ones. It'll basically will do faster transfers than the standard Commodore 64 1541 drive and whatnot. Remote debugging, which I'm not going to be concerned about. Factory test, which you actually need a password for, because you have to, I guess, when if you send this in for repair, you would basically, they would basically have the password to do some tests, which they don't want the common user doing. Chipset info, which is which we can actually do that right now. This shows you what's actually physically mounted in those ZIF sockets. As you can see, we have the VIC-2, which is the 8565, which even tells you right there it's the PAL version, and there's the chip identifier in hex. And then you have the SID1 and SID2. Now I have both SID2s are the same, they're the 8580s. Now you can have one that's 8580 and one that's the 6581, I believe, which would be kind of neat, because then you could kind of go between the different way they sound. You can switch them in the menu, but I think it's after the next reboot. I don't think it does it live. I can't really test it because I don't have the other chip. When I do it with these existing two right here, it doesn't seem to do anything. So that's kind of neat. So you can actually switch between these as well. And you can also, in the audio options, you can also configure it for mono, stereo, one left, one right, all that kind of fun stuff. The CPU, which isn't mounted in there, which I think is the 8500, I think. I'll correct that if I have to. And the MCU, which is, I don't know what that stands for. That could be master control unit, memory control unit. It's basically the firmware that runs all of this right here. So, and you can press any key for menu. So we're back here. So let's go into the audio options. I'll press A. And there you go. You can go. It's right now with the arrow here. That's what's actually selected, and all these settings can be saved. So you don't, you'll remember next time you turn the machine off and back on again. It will retain these settings. And a good thing too is it also let you go back to default if you mess something up and forget how to change it back to the way it was. So we have mono SID1 and mono SID2. And then you have mono both SID1 and 2, so actually we'll output the signal left and right, but they'll be the same. And then you have SID1 left, SID2 right, and SID1 right or SID2 left, if that's what you want. And then you push on X to get back to the main menu. So you can go back to the load default settings is kind of nice. I just pushed L, so that can go back to the defaults. If you want to write your settings, you just hit W. And it will print out the string. So some of these values in here will change depending on your settings. It's just something I've noticed. What they mean, I don't know exactly, but you'll see this line whenever you wrote or saved your settings. Memory ROM selection, a reset machine, stereo SID options. So that's a nice one to get to as well. Yeah, you can tell that the mono SID1, mono SID2, and then the stereo addressing and whatnot. I'm not too familiar on what you would do with that, but the wiki page, which I'll give you the link to in the bottom of the description on this video, it'll basically define all of what that does. One of the neat features though is the upload ROMs option right here. So if I type in, I have to get out of the menu, hit X, and then you always have to hit X to get out of the menu, or else you're going to be hitting keys and you say nothing is happening. It's because you're not in the main menu like you are right here. So I'm going to click on, or sorry, type in U, and there we go. So you can upload a custom kernel ROM image, 3 of them actually, a custom character ROM image, and upload an extra image, which could be used for other things. I'm not too familiar with what you would do with that, but the kernel ROM image is kind of nice because I do have a Jiffy DOS image, which is kind of nice for speeding up disk access. And of course, with the Jiffy ROM DOS, you also have to have the Jiffy ROM DOS also on the 1541 or wherever your disk drive is. So they kind of need both. But even having Jiffy ROM by itself as the kernel, without like the companion on the disk drive, like I mentioned before, you can still have shortcuts and other cool features you can use that kind of build on top of the original kernel from Commodore. So you can actually upload this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload the Jiffy ROM DOS image right now. So I'm going to put it into number 1 right here. So I'm going to click on upload, which is number 1, sorry. Yeah, so 1 for the first image, 2 for the second, third, so on. I'm going to click on 1. Now I have to send the file via X modem. Now for the longest time I was doing this wrong. I was just going into file, send file. That doesn't work. You have to use, and it dawned on me, X modem protocol. And that's definitely will be much better. So I have to go into file, transfer, not send file. Transfer X modem, and then I want to send. So I'm going to upload the image. I'm going to send the image to the C64 Reloaded Mark II. So you click on that, and it will ask me for the ROM image, which I believe I dumped it onto the desktop right there. I'll scroll downward to find the Jiffy DOS. There you are. Now the thing about these, because it's an 8K image, it has to be 8,196 bytes. It can't be a modified ROM that's an extra 2 bytes, let's say 8198. It will not work. It has to be the exact file length of 8196, which it is. So I'll click on open, and as you see, it is transferring the image slowly for some reason. Or is it stuck? There it goes. That was odd. Do I trust that? I'm going to reflash this just to be sure. So you can press any key to get back out of there again. I'm going to re-upload it because I don't know what that hiccup was. Yes. So let's see if this will send much quicker this time. And back to desktop. Grab the Jiffy DOS image, which is right here. Yes, that's much better. The other one probably worked, but I didn't trust that weird pause at 3 some odd %. And there we go. Now, By default, you can actually tell it what image to boot from and what you can do to switch with. So I will show you what I mean by that. There's a thing called keyboard shortcuts, configure keys, which is K, which is right here. So I'm going to click on K, I'm going to type in K. I'm more of a mouse person, I guess. So you can configure the long press, which is the power switch has it's kind of a 3-position. There's off, on, and if you flick it, kind of resets back to the center, which is on. If you flick it up and quickly, you can reset, or if you can hold it, it will do other functions. You can also do the same thing with the restore key as well. So yeah, there's configure long press, function key, and short press. So I'm going to use the long press because the short press is already configured. If I go into short press, which is P, it's already configured for reset. So I'm going to get back out of that. I'm going to go into the long press option, and it's set for reset machine as well. I want to toggle between the kernel and custom image 1, because remember, custom image 1 is the one I loaded the Jiffy DOS into. So I'm going to type in 1. And as you can see, it's highlighted here. Yes. So that's what it's going to do. So I'm going to click on X to get back out, and X again to go back to the main menu. Now I'm going to save these options. I'm going to hit W. And as you can see, it wrote something here because it actually changed this value, I believe, here from previous, but whatever. Just look for that line. That way you know it actually saved everything. There's other, like I said, there's other functions in here, but I'm not going to worry about them right now. And if you want any more information on that, if you ever buy one of these boards, they are still available on individual computers' website. You can, yes, I'm saying a lot. Yes, you can visit that website, like I said, and it'll give you all the information you need about what all of this does. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hook this up to my capture device, and hopefully I will show you, switching between these the custom kernel, which is the Jiffy DOS, and then of course the regular one built in. And I will see you at that time. I will be right back.
Hello. I wanted to show the 3-position switch here, just so to avoid any confusion. You can see, of course, it says off and then on, but it's actually 3-position. It's in the off position right now, and then center is on. But I can actually, let's get it from the top here. I can actually, one moment. Yeah, you can hear it. I can actually push that up and hold it. So the quick reset or the quick press is just pushing and letting go. That'll actually reset the Commodore 64. If you push it up and hold it for more than half a second, that will enable the long press. So that, sorry about that. So that's how that switch works. So it's multi-function, obviously. So you can either short press reset, or you can have it do other stuff, or the long press, you hold it for more than half a second, and of course it will perform other things. And we have it set up that we can switch to the custom kernel ROM by holding that for upward when you turn it on for more than half a second, and then letting go of it. So that takes the takes care of the explanation of that, and we shall return to our regularly scheduled programming. If only I could speak. I will be right back. And I have returned. You have joined me on the floor of my living room. I wanted to show you where all the magic's going to happen to capture this to my capture card in my home theater PC. So of course you have the Commodore 64 Reloaded Mark II. I'm going to be using this to speed things up when we get to run a game or two. The Epix Fast Loader Reloaded. Reloaded cartridge on a reloaded Commodore 64. What more could you ask for? I also have the Pi 1541, which is a really neat device. It uses a Raspberry Pi 3. Comes with what they call a hat. It gives you the input and output ports, basically your serial port on the back, power, and all that fun stuff. So the hat plugs onto the top of the I/O port of the Raspberry Pi 3. I don't think it works with the 4, but it works with the 3. And it was kind of nice because I think the 4 is running a bit hotter, so that's fine. So I had an extra one lying around. The case was separate, but it looks really nice, and you can actually select the images and everything else. using these buttons. So that's kind of nice. So what I have to have, this of course is hooked up to power, which is here, this white cord, and I have the serial output, which of course goes into, if I can turn that around, this is going to be pretty weird, sorry, which goes into, yeah, the back of the Commodore 64. And there's the S-video output, which is, sorry about that, which is right here. That goes to the RetroTink 2X. And then the audio, which is a 3/8, yeah, really, a 1/8 inch jack, 3.5 millimeter, I believe, jack that plugs into this guy over here, which is the RetroTink 2X. So you got your audio in here, and the S-video input here. It also accepts composite as a component input here, and if you use the green connector, which I believe is it the middle one? Yeah, the middle one here, you can use the yellow or like the CVBS or regular composite video input as well. And everything gets output via HDMI. This is going to my capture card, which is going all the way around this crap, and of course into the back of my home theater PC. And as you can see, it's working just fine. So hopefully I can capture some footage of the custom ROM that we threw in there, the kernel ROM, the Jiffy DOS. So I shall be back with that in one moment. Hello, and as you can see, we are back to the capture card. You can see the color bar test pattern proving that the RetroTink is operational, and the capture card does not mind the signal it's receiving from the RetroTink. And of course right now there's no input, thus the color bars, which is always nice, at least you know everything is functioning. So I'm going to turn on the Commodore 64, and we should see the basic Commodore screen, which we do right now. Give it a second to sync. Excellent. So, like I showed before previously, we're going to use we're going to turn the computer off, and then when I turn it on, I'm going to push the switch all the way up as far as it goes and hold it for more than half a second, and that will trigger the ROM switch, or sorry, the kernel ROM switching, as we configured it earlier in the terminal program. So here we go. I'm going to turn it off. And then on it comes. So it's on. I push it all the way up. I'm holding it. Okay, lies. 1 second. Fuck's sakes. Okay. So I'm turning it on, and I'm holding it, and then letting go. And any second now, perfect. And there you are. And it'll stay like that until you shut the power off. It will survive reset. So if I quickly push the switch up and let go of it, it will reset like that. There we go. And of course, if I turn it off and then back on again, it's going to go back to the default kernel, which is the built-in ROM in the FPGA. And yeah, there it goes. And you can, like I said before, you can configure it so, let's say Jiffy DOS, and Jiffy DOS is only being used as an example. You can use any, ROM image you want for the kernel. You can have it set up to default to this if you wanted, and then the switching would go back to the Commodore ROM. So it's up to you how to configure it, and it just demonstrates how really nice this unit is, because you can configure it, pretty much, from the SID options to the custom ROM images and all that fun stuff to do, a bit more than the regular Commodore 64 can, and it gets rid of a lot of the add-ons that you would have needed and wiring and hacks that you'd have to do to get all that operational. So in the next part of the video, and the last part, we're going to quickly load up a demo and see how that works. I will be right back. Returned, I have. As you can see on the screen, the fast load cartridge has been installed, so hopefully it'll make the loading from the Pi 1541 less painful. It's a very good emulator. Emulates a 1541, like I mentioned before, to the point of how long it takes to load. That's because of the issue with the serial bus transfer speeds. But that set aside, let's get a game happening here. I said demo before, but maybe we'll load a game instead. So I'll type in the magic words. So file browser 64. Okay. And of course, run would help. And I don't want to rerun this. I want to go to the main directory. There we go. And use a Commodore key and shift so I can get the text to display properly. Go into games.
And what shall we load in now? We will do the Mayhem in Monsterland. I believe I did that in one of my previous videos, 'cause at least I know that one works. I can't play it very well, but it works. And that's all that matters. So Mayhem in Monsterland. It's here somewhere. Yes. Okay. And then load the actual image. And here we go. And of course I need to actually select the program, which is this one. It takes a couple of minutes to load, so I will edit out this part and join you at the start of the game. Okay, so let's hit spacebar on this, and I could give myself unlimited lives, but I even think that won't save me. But for the purpose of this video, this is fine. And this is the first time I've actually captured full screen capture with the Commodore 64, actually anything for that matter, with the RetroTink 2X. So it'll be neat to see what the quality of the image looks like. The 2X basically means it doubles. So I think 240-ish is roughly what the older retro consoles put out, and it basically doubles it to 480p. So, which most of everything can handle. Anything below that, new TVs don't even know what to do with 240s, but 480 it can do, because that's basically standard definition. Aha, of DVDs. And there we go. And let's watch me die my usual death here. I'm not sure what year this game was made, but it's pretty recent. I'd probably say within the last 4 years anyways. And they really pushed the limits of the Commodore 64, and it's really nice graphics. I don't want to go back through there. And I can jump. Now I fixed this joystick, so of course I'm going to blame my performance on how bad the joystick is, because that's what we normally do, isn't it? But it was having issues. I couldn't jump up properly, but I don't think this is going to help me too much. You see, death already. Perhaps I should have used those extra lives. And yes, my status is sad. I am very sad at this game. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So as you can see, the Commodore 64, basically the C64 Reloaded Mark II, is pretty neat. If you have a motherboard that's died a horrible death, you can take the chips off of it as long as they're okay. Throw it into this motherboard, and you're good to go. And the motherboard will fit into a C64 case as well. So there you go. That is how you die, by jumping on pointy stars. But that's pretty much it. And that's it. I said yes for this video. But as always, thanks for watching.